Welcome to Withdraw Consent. My name is Victor. This is Jack. So you mentioned this week that there's a new anti-Semitism bill going through.
Yeah, I think this is very important.
Okay.
Like so important that it's pretty early Monday morning, and I'm gonna go home and edit this and publish it today. But basically, they made this. It's a bill in the House that passed, and it's called HR 6090, and we're gonna talk about all the aspects of it. But basically, what it does is it redefines anti-Semitism.
Oh, good.
Based on a Holocaust website group.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is already okay. So this passed the House, and it's waiting for the Senate, and then the President, of course. And they could amend it in the Senate, but this is incredibly important because the definition of anti-Semitism is everything.
Sure.
And so I think it's important to go over it.
Yeah.
And the scope of the law is important too. So it passed the House. I'm going to put a graphic up on the screen. But Republicans 187 yay, 21 nay, 9 not voting. And Democrats 133 yay, 70 nay, 9 not voting. Which means both parties hate the First Amendment, the Constitution, and free speech. But the Republicans hate it more at this point. So you know how the parties shift back and forth?
Yeah.
So now you're on the anti-Constitution side if you're a Republican.
Okay.
Unless you're of the 21, House members.
Sure.
So anyways, that happened. Now, when we look at this law, you might say, well, okay, it's just for this, right? And it is just for this. But keep in mind that they've already done this thing that we're talking about for federal employees.
Okay.
So they've already changed the definition because it didn't take a law to do it.
Sure.
So federal employees, like if you remember that black guy who is that really cool black nationalist guy, his name's Io Kamathi.
Yeah.
He was a federal agent. He worked for, I don't know, the IRS or something stupid, But then after hours, he had a YouTube show like this.
Okay.
But not like ours. But, he had a YouTube presence and he wrote books and stuff. And then they found out that he was a federal employee. He's breaking their anti-Semitism laws. So this is going to expand it. I'll put a thing up on the screen. Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, and national origin in programs and activities receiving federal financial assistance.
Okay.
So that's already the law. And they're just going to expand this to Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 is going to cover this broad definition of anti-Semitism, right?
Okay.
Which is important. And now it's only going to go to institutions that gain federal assistance.
Okay.
So we're talking about just the education department.
Okay.
Won't affect us here, even on YouTube. But YouTube could voluntarily choose this policy, and if so, they're a private company. That's on them.
Right.
But just it's not great, And so basically, when this went through, somebody, it was Charlie Kirk, tweeted and said, man, did they just ban the Bible? And then Tucker Carlson responded and said, no, just the New Testament, right? But they haven't banned it. They haven't banned it in your church. They haven't banned it on YouTube. They've just banned it in schools.
Oh.
So it's just education. It's including things other than education. It's if they get federal assistance. So it was federal employees. Now it's federal assistance, and they're creeping, right?
Sure.
And so here's where it changes. It says, Section 4 of this short bill, I got a link below. For purposes of this act, the term definition of anti-Semitism, number 1, means the definition of anti-Semitism adopted on May 26, 2016 by the IHRA, of which the United States is a member, which definition has been adopted by the Department of State, and 2, includes the contemporary examples of anti-Semitism identified in the IHRA definition. So the definition is so anti-free speech that they didn't even include it in the bill. They just referred you to someone else if you want to go find it. Ridiculous. Okay. And then here's how the law is constructed. Section 5, Rule of Construction for Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. In reviewing, investigating, or deciding whether there has been a violation of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 on the basis of race, color, or national origin based on the individual's actual perceived shared Jewish ancestry or Jewish ethnic characteristics, the Department of Education shall take into consideration the definition of anti-Semitism as part of the department's assessment of whether the practice was motivated by anti-Semitic intent.
Okay.
And then, of course, they've added this great, at the very end, it's constitutional protections. We've seen this in other laws, and here's what it says briefly. Nothing in this act shall be construed to diminish or infringe upon the right protected under the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States.
But yeah, the whole thing does.
That the whole thing is.
Right.
Right? Okay, so now we go to the website for this International Holocaust Remembrance Group, which is the one that's going to create this definition, right? And we're going to bullet point them, okay, and just discuss them. So the preface says, contemporary examples of anti-Semitism in public life, the media, schools, the workplace, and the religious sphere could take into account the overall context, include but are not limited to, first bullet point, calling for, aiding, or justifying the killing or harming of Jews in the name of a radical ideology or an extremist view of religion.
Okay.
Already illegal.
Yeah.
Right? So, whatever. That's fine. Okay, now we get to we'll get better and better. Making mendacious, dehumanizing, demonizing, or stereotypical allegations about Jews as such, or the power of Jews as collective, such as especially, but not exclusively, the myth about a world Jewish conspiracy, or of Jews controlling the media, economy, government, or other societal institutions.
So you have to ignore everything that your eyes tell you.
Yeah. You can't even do stereotypical allegations. Like if you say, oh, that Jews, the big nose, you're a comedian, we'll say.
Yeah.
You know, and you do that, and blacks, and big lips, and then whites, and no spices. And they're like,
Right.
wait, but you said big nose, so you're going to jail.
Right.
You know? Because keep in mind, there was some kids up in New England, and they put a banner up over the freeway, and it said, keep New England white.
Okay.
They went to prison.
Because it's anti-Semitic?
It's a violation of the Civil Rights Act. They literally tried them under the Civil Rights Act, right?
Wow.
Is this retroactively applied? Is every comedian just going through and frantically?
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Well, no,
yeah.
it would be an education.
Yeah, if
It
they're
would be an
government
education.
funded.
So it would be previous lessons you've given as a professor or something. You know, that's recorded
Yeah,
somewhere. What if they're not even recorded and people just remember and
Right.
they testify? I don't know. I don't know the answer. But basically, this one's interesting because this law passing the House proves that Jews control our government. And if you state that Jews control our government, it's now illegal by the law that Jews had passed.
Right.
Right? And I don't mean Jews as much as I just mean Israel.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Like, okay. Next bullet point. Accusing Jews as a people of being responsible for real or imagined wrongdoing committed by a single Jewish person or group, or even for acts committed by non-Jews. So if a Jewish group does something terrible, like a genocide, like the IDF's doing a genocide, right?
Right.
And you say, look what the Jews are doing.
Then that's anti-Semitic.
That's anti-Semitic.
Yeah, they're the most
Because
protected class ever.
Right. It's a Jewish state, and then you have your Jewish military, and there are Arabs in the IDF who are Israeli citizens doing a genocide, but you can't say that's the Jews because the only Jewish state in the world with their own only military. Okay, whatever. That's great. Okay. Denying the fact, scope, mechanisms, parentheses, e.g. gas chambers, end parentheses, or intentionality of the genocide of the Jewish people at the hands of National Socialist Germany and its supporters and accomplices during World War II, the Holocaust.
Nice.
Denying the fact, scope, mechanisms, or intentionality. So for example, we have episodes on the Holocaust,
Mm-hmm.
and you go to Treblinka, and they're like, yeah, here's the method they used to kill people. They hooked up this diesel engine of either a truck or a submarine, though they had no Soviet submarines. And then they put it in the window, and then that could not have killed anyone.
Right.
And that's their method. But if you say that, and this is also why you know the Holocaust for sure didn't happen.
Right.
Because you don't need a law to prove that it's illegal to say the Civil War, didn't happen. I don't care if you say the Civil War didn't happen. Go for it, bud. Make a whole cult around it. I could care less. Accusing the Jews as a people or Israel as a state of inventing or exaggerating the Holocaust.
Okay.
Accusing Jewish citizens of being more loyal to Israel or to the alleged priorities of Jews worldwide than to the interest of their own nation.
Oh, my goodness.
It's amazing.
It's insane.
So, I mean, this one's just so great because, like, AIPAC controls the United States government. That's illegal on a previous bullet point that we discussed, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's because their loyalty is the reason why they're doing it. The motivation is because their loyalty is more to Israel than to the United States, which violates this section of it.
But AIPAC exists for the benefit of Israel.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
It's insane.
And so basically there's no point in sending your kid to college if you want them to have real information.
Right.
That's not true, because if you want them to be like a structural engineer or something, go ahead.
Okay.
There's a doctor, there's all types of stuff. Next point, denying the Jewish people their right to self-determination, e.g. by claiming that the existence of a state of Israel is a racist endeavor.
Okay.
It's interesting. I was watching, and they were talking to an Israeli, and they said, man, why not give the Palestinians the right to return? And it's like, because we want a Jewish state, because they understand if the Palestinians get the right to return, they'll lose the battle of demographics. You're saying it's a racist endeavor. That's what that guy was basically saying.
But don't the Palestinians get that same right that you're trying to protect?
Don't Americans get that right to block their border and deport
Right.
everybody who's ever a descendant of somebody who illegally immigrated here?
Yeah.
No. They do.
Right.
They do.
We're going to protect this other country, not our own.
Right. Our government will, yeah.
Right. But that's anti-Semitic to imply that.
Yeah. Okay, next one is applying double standards by requiring of it, which is Israel, I think, a behavior not expected or demanded of any other democratic nation.
Okay.
This one's great because it's just really
It's so vague.
open to interpretation. Correct.
Yeah.
Right. So I could be like, look, they're committing a genocide. And they're like, well, when's the last time you talked about the Chinese genocide of the Uyghurs?
Oh, okay.
Okay. The reason why I care about this genocide is because we're funding it. That's honestly, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Okay. Next one. Using the symbols and images associated with classic anti-Semitism, e.g., claims of Jews killing Jesus, or blood libel, in parentheses, to characterize Israel or Israelis.
Didn't the Jews themselves literally say, let it be on us and our descendants?
Yes.
Oh, okay. But we can't say that.
It's just people don't know the Bible. Like,
Oh,
I was
okay.
watching Tim cover this, and they're like, yeah, wait a second, because they had the Romans do it for them. No, it's not what happened.
No.
No, the Jews did not have the power politically to kill Jesus.
Right.
So they went to the Romans and said, you kill him. They said, how about we release someone? They said, give us the murderer. And they said, crucify him, crucify him, crucify him. And the guy was a Pontius Pilate.
Yeah, so against it.
And he was so against it, his wife had dreamt of it the night before and warned him not to do it. And he literally just got out a thing, washed his hands, and walked away. And then the Jews took him out and killed him, you know? And it even says that later in the New Testament. They're like, you Jews who, like they admitted it. So, I mean.
And that's what prompted the Charlie Kirk.
Right. And it's like, I mean, I think you're ridiculous if you fault any Jew today for killing Jesus.
Right.
That's like saying you might have had a descendant who had slaves. I don't care. I'm sorry. The terrible things happened in the past. Okay. Drawing comparisons of contemporary Israeli policy to that of the Nazis.
Wow, the acknowledgement of that, like what that implies,
Yes.
is that they are doing the stuff that they claim Germany did, but you're not allowed to say that.
And the irony is Germany didn't do it.
Right. You made up a bad guy, but now you are the guy that you claim Germany was.
Right.
That's phenomenal. That's
Amazing.
if I had a favorite, that's at the top right now.
Drawing comparisons. That's amazing.
That's so good.
Okay. Holding Jews collectively responsible for actions of the state of Israel. This one's interesting because it says Jews. So it's talking about like world Jewry.
Mm-hmm.
And you're correct. The Jew who lives next door to you isn't right.
Right.
Israel does something terrible, you don't go punch him.
Sure.
But nobody ever thinks like that.
Right.
Nobody ever thinks like, say, remember the pro-Ukraine, anti-Russian thing? But then you're like, you're at a gas station and you see a Russian dude. He's clearly Russian. You don't go punch him.
Right.
He's just some American dude, and then he's delivering Budweiser,
Yeah.
in some truck. Like, so this is nonsense.
Yeah.
It should say holding Israelis collectively responsible for actions of the state of Israel. But then you should hold them responsible because you vote for the people, just like we the people, of the people, by the people, for the people in the United States, which is why terrorists say we're responsible collectively, Americans, for the actions of the government.
But you're trying to correct something that is illogical. This whole thing is irrational anyway. Or
Okay.
not irrational. It's meant to overly protect a group of people.
Yeah. man, I really would like to just be a fly on the wall when they were discussing this, because they're like, we could do anything in the world. We could make the definition anything we want. It's a bunch of guys with beards, you know what I mean? They're having matzo balls and stuff, you know?
Oh, okay, I was just thinking this is APEC coming up with this stuff,
Okay.
or whoever.
Well, whoever it is. I would just love to see, because like we could do anything. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Well, let's just do anything.
Yeah, yeah.
Anything we can think of, let's put it on this list.
So back when I read the definition of anti-Semitism in the law, it said the definitions on this website and the examples. And there's kind of only one. It gave examples in the little bullet points, but there's one like paragraph that describes examples. So I'm just going to read that just to be comprehensive, and then we'll be done. Manifestations might include the targeting of the state of Israel, conceived as a Jewish collectivity. However, criticism of Israel similar to that leveled against any other country cannot be regarded as anti-Semitic. This goes back to the double standard one. If you're criticizing, look what they're doing with the Uyghurs, look what they're doing with the Palestinians, that's fine. But of course, they're not going to do that at all.
Right.
Anti-Semitism frequently charges Jews with conspiring to harm humanity and is often used to blame Jews for why things go wrong.
Okay.
That's funny. Because, like, why is Hollywood trash? Why is the banking industry trash?
Right, but it's...
Who controls it? Oh, that's all illegal if you're on a college campus. There'll be no truth on colleges.
I'm just thinking of, like, as you're reading this, I'm like, it's almost a description of our channel, but we didn't, like, just wake up and, like, let's hate someone.
Right.
This is like we research things like,
Just
wow,
discovered. Yeah.
this is terrible. And this is, you know, and it's just, you come to these conclusions if you're...
I want to know that. Okay, there's one more sentence. Then we'll talk about it. It is expressed in speech, writing, visual forms of and action, and employs sinister stereotypes and negative character traits. I want to know. Okay, so the professor can't do it, right?
Okay.
But what if I write a term paper, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I talk about just something that they say is a double standard? Do I go to prison as a student for putting that in my paper? Do the students have to censor themselves? See, I'll tell you experience I had, right? I was writing a term paper, and it was something about World War II in France and Germany, and I was writing it. It was an assessment of war guilt between Germany and Britain, just those two countries specifically, right? And I'm writing about it, and I'm analyzing everything. And then I got this Jewish professor, he's got a PhD, you know, and like every page he wrote, what about the Holocaust? And we're just assessing war guilt for starting the war. That's all you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I wasn't saying the thing. And not even tangentially near the Holocaust.
Right.
But that's what they expect.
Oh, okay.
So is this going to change expectations? I'd be interested in knowing.
But it's, well, I mean, do you have a federal loan for your school? Then your schooling is funded by the government.
Right, but does the student have to conform to this?
But you are being funded by the government to go to school.
Oh, because the student loan.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only connection I could make. Otherwise, it's...
And then do you lose the student loan or you go to prison?
Right. That's insane.
It's insane. Just imagine...
Yeah.
Like my kids who are little, you know, they know a lot of things about the world, we'll say, you know, about like how they lie to us, you know, and they'll blurt out random stuff, you know, because that's just how a kid is, you know. Boy, you said it was, how does he control himself enough to 1984 style blend in with the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is an interesting story, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So we want to do this now because this could be amended by the Senate and sent back to the House. It could be changed. We never know.
Right.
But this is where our House of Representatives is right now.
Sure.
And if I imagine you live in a Republican area if you're watching. I imagine, but possibly not. Right? I've lived in Democratic areas before. But 21, is your House member betraying the United States to a foreign country? Mine's not, surprisingly.
Oh, wow.
I've never heard this dude's name. Went and looked him up. I'm like, one of the 21.
I'm my guy.
I call my wife and tell her, and she's like, oh, yeah, he's at the local. You can go down and meet him. And I'm like, I honestly want to go shake this House member that nobody who's watching this has ever heard his name before.
Yeah.
I'm down.
Okay.
And you're trying to locate where I live. You now have a 1 in 21 chance. But you can also eliminate Matt Gaetz and everybody who people know, obviously, is saying no to it, you know.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's what I got.
Let's, I don't feel like I'm that surprised. I mean, just because of the other stuff that you've researched and all that, the stuff in Florida and just all that kind of stuff. But it's just amazing how comprehensive it is, that list. And just, like, read this list and tell me they aren't in control. Like, how do you have that argument?
That is illegal. Definitely illegal.
But I mean, just you can't say that they aren't in control if this type of stuff is being
Right.
yeah.
Because it's so over the top. But
Right.
also, so there's people who aren't analyzing this correctly, and they're just pointing out the ridiculousness, and they're pretending like it's going to be like your pastor is going to be jailed. You're in a pastor.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So also, I wanted to cover it for that to talk about the scope of it, and it's just limited. But it's still terrible because people are also pretending like they didn't change the federal the rule for federal employees, and they're pretending like this is a first of its kind. No, this is a creep.
It's an extension.
Right.
Yeah.
And it will creep again.
Of course.
Because yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, what do you guys think of this? This is, I mean, I can't imagine anyone saying that this is a great bill or that this is pro First Amendment. Yeah, just the First Amendment level, this is a terrible thing. I'd love to hear your thoughts below, and we'll catch you next time.